Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film Other Men's Women. This is continuing my quest to review as much of William Wellman's filmography as I possibly can, and is available for me to actually see, and this is the next one on the list. Other Men's Women, which was originally released in other parts of the country called The Steel Highway. However, in New York City, it was released under the title of Other Men's Women. And I guess if you believe in the theory that New York is the only city that matters in America, then I guess this is the correct title. Bill and Jack, who are two lifelong friends who are both railroad engineers, and Bill falls in love with Jack's wife, Lily, after he invites him to live with them after he's kicked out of his boarding house and is kind of having some bad luck because he has a drinking problem. Now, this film has a plot that Wellman had in a lot of his early films, such as Wings and Public Enemy, where you have two men who are lifelong friends going through life together and sharing the same profession and being work buddies, just like in Wings and The Public Enemy. And in this, they're railroad engineers. They're not pilots or gangsters. I guess Wellman likes that a lot. He's very much a man's man director. He likes male bonding movies. This is more closer to Wings just because there's a love triangle as well, and also the way he does kind of the documentary style throughout it. He shot all of this on location. This really wasn't made on a set, or if there were parts on a set, they didn't look like too much like they're on a set. I mean, most of it, all the railroad stuff was done on a real railroad. All the actors look like they're very at home and at ease with being railroad engineers and running these trains and walking on these trains. They look very comfortable, like they've done it a million times. It looks very real, you know. It doesn't look like a movie version of a railroad. And it looks like what he got from Wings, which was done in a very documentary style, and he brought that to his later filmography, and you can see that in Other Men's Women. The way he shot the trains is really beautiful. I mean, he's really good at shooting not just the drama and the actors and everything, but also kind of the location and the railroad. And I also like how this film has a real sense of a small town in it. It's really like a small town pre-code movie. It's not just about Billy, Jack, and Lily. It's also about like James Cagney, who has a small part in this, plays Eddie. You have Joan Blondell. You have this guy named Peg Leg. By the end of the film, you know who all these characters are, and they're kind of like important to the characters, and they're important to you as a viewer. I like that old Hollywood small town feel that this movie has, and this film kind of rides the line between kind of melodrama and realism. It was written by Maud Fulton, who also wrote The Maltese Falcon. Some people say she's a feminist screenwriter. Other people say she's just a woman who is a screenwriter, and that's why people say she's a feminist, but whatever. She did write more like real people when you get to Billy, Jack, and Lily, and they don't feel like, no one's really the villain necessarily. No one's really the bad guy. No one's really the good guy. Everyone's a little more complex than that. And even with this script does have some melodramatic tendencies. Wellman, I think, directs it in such a way that it never goes too far into melodrama. There's obviously some melodrama in the plot, especially when Jack and Bill get in a fight and Bill blinds Jack by hitting him in the face. He hit him so hard that he actually is blind. Jack tries to kill himself and all this nonsense. Wellman seems to play that off pretty well, and I like the pre-code feel of it. I mean, they're very open about sex in it. Joan Blondell, she's like NPO, never putting out. It's not a hugely sexual movie the way we view it today, but I don't think it's an extreme pre-code. I think Public Enemy is a bit worse than Other Men's Women, other than, I guess, the adultery. I think that's one of the things about Wellman. He's kind of a matter-of-fact guy. He's really like, this is how it is. That's why he shot, I think, documentary style, or as we see it now as documentary style. Then he's like, let's just shoot it how it is. I don't think Wellman was really thinking of it as documentary style. Now, that's how we understand that kind of footage, so that's what we say about it. It's still Hollywood. I mean, this film is still Hollywood, but it gives you kind of that slice of maybe a 30s small town. The main three actors in it, Grant Withers is Bill. I've read some reviews of people don't like him very much. I kind of like him. He does this weird dance that reminds me a bit of Crispin Glover in the fourth Friday the 13th movie, and I would best describe as kind of a spastic gay robot with grace. He has the best arc in the whole movie because he gets to go from a drunk to falling in love with Jack's wife. I like Mary Astor. She is like so welcoming and warm to Bill. It's almost like when they first kiss, it feels like when they go in, it's natural because they're so flirty with one another, but when they do kiss and it's shocking. She's really good at portraying that. That scene where they both realize they both really love each other is Mary Astor's best scene in the whole film. She was really good at like the physicality of that scene when she's putting her hand over Grant Withers' mouth. That's a really like interesting and a very visual scene, and not just because of the cinematography. I think the way that actors physically work around each other during that scene and talk about their love for one another has kind of a physicality to it. Wellman was really good at working with actors who had a physicality to them, much like how Cagney did in The Public Enemy. And Cagney's in this film not for very long. He's only in a couple scenes, and he does do some dancing, and you really can see the song and dance man he is. Most people, when they talk about this film, talk about how this was his third film and he's not in it for very much, but he's not really that important to the whole film. I think he stands out. You definitely remember him from being in this film, but I don't think he's as essential as a lot of the reviews are making it out to be. It's just because he's James Cagney and the rest of these people aren't as famous as James Cagney. I'm not in love with it. It's not the Public Enemy or Beggars of Life or Wings for me or anything like that. I'd kind of heard of this movie before, but I hadn't. This is one I'm pretty much seeing and reviewing because I'm trying to see all these William Wellman films. I like it. I like how it does connect into the William Wellman filmography, and it is very short. It's about 70 minutes, so it's not a big investment in your time. Mary Astor called this film a piece of cheese, and James Cagney would often completely forget about it himself. Some critics liked it, other critics called it a little cheesy. I think it's directed really well, and it shows Wellman, you know, at this time he's a studio director, so you really have to make the most of your assignments, and I don't think this was a film that Wellman picked out. I think this was another assignment he was asked to do. You know, they asked you to do a certain amount of pictures every year, and this was just another one. Wellman brought a lot to the direction of this film and kind of makes it a little more than a weaker director would have. I think a weaker director would play up the melodrama, and Wellman seems to kind of almost mute it as much as you can. I mean, it's still there. You can't fight it. It's there in the script. But I think if you were just to read the script and you were somebody else, you wouldn't have the film it is, and you wouldn't have the realism, and you wouldn't portray the small town the way you did. There wouldn't be the matter-of-factness that Wellman really brought to it. So I think Wellman directed the hell out of this and made it a lot more than just a simple assignment picture. I do kind of think it's a little cheesy. I do think it's a lesser work, but I think, you know, he's still a really great director at this point. There's not too much experimentation or anything. He's resting on his laurels. These are all ideas he's come up with from other pictures, but he still can do them very well. And if you're a Wellman fan, I think it's an interesting watch. And if you like Pre-Code and all that stuff, I think it's a fun watch. It's just not a transcendent film. It's not a film that's going to necessarily get you into Wellman, but if you're already there, it's a good film to check out. So if you've seen Other Men's Women and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to. The next video will actually be The Hatchet Man, which is skipping a few. I'm going to go back to Night Nurse later. I couldn't get it in time and it just worked out this way. So this is kind of going to go in order, but not exactly. So The Hatchet Man will be the next film, and that will be next Tuesday or Wednesday, and I hope to see you then.